Hello, my name is John Desmond. This video features Richard Taylor. Rich, along with many volunteers, restored the Hopewell Junction Depot behind me here, built the replica of Signal Station 196 to my right, and constructed the Bernard J. Rudberg Pavilion. Rich is inside the depot right now, so let's go inside, meet him, talk to him about his many accomplishments here in Hopewell Junction, listen to his many anecdotes.
My name's Rich Taylor. I discovered the depot back in 1995 and really thought this should be restored. It really was in very poor shape. I said, this has got to be saved. And I came over, looked at it, and then went home, got my camera and come back pictures of it and tried to find people to restore it. At that time, I was so busy with Habitat that I had just started in Dutchess County and my own business, which is remodeling and home building and what have you. I had to get somebody to restore it because I didn't want it to get lost. And I had a meeting at the local library, 2 meetings, and I got 4 guys that said they promised me they would restore it. So I gave it to them. I said, you're responsible for restoring that building. And they said, okay, we will. And then wasn't long after that, I guess, others came involved and got involved. And I came over here after work time to cover the roof. There was big holes in the roof, so I was covering that. I think I did that 3 times. And they were still working on it, and they weren't going very fast. 10 years after I gave it to these 4 guys, Bernie Rudberg called me on an afternoon and said the county is going to tear down the depot if we don't keep restoring it. And I told Bernie, I said, don't worry. You put me on the board as vice president, and I'll see that the building is restored within 2 years. 20 months after I said that, I opened that door, the first door, and let the public in here. It was all, this first room was all done. A few months after that, I opened the other door, and the whole building was open to the public.
Now, Rich, you told me that one day in the cold and snow, this is after you decided to take a hands-on approach to it. You said you and one other person were here, and then suddenly you had put a notice in the Southern Dutchess News and the Poughkeepsie Journal asking for volunteers to assist.
Oh, that one, okay. All right, that's when we took the whole roof off. We had 3 snowstorms in here because the roof wasn't there. We had staging all up around all the walls. Everything was lined up. We had the trusses here, and we're ready to put the trusses up. And I asked for, I put an article in the paper asking for people to give us a hand to put the roof on, and never heard anything. Never. The 3 of us came here, and we're looking at the rafters and saying, well, I think there was 4 of us maybe. We're going to have to put them up by hand. And we were standing around, all of a sudden, in come a truck and a car and another truck. And actually 25 guys came here. Never called us. We didn't know it. And I says, oh, we're going to get that roof on today for sure. We did. We got all the rafters up and the plywood on in one day. With all these 25 people. And that was a blessing, because we had no idea that was going to happen. After we got the roof on, it was just tarp paper. And the guys kept saying, when are we going to put shingles on? And I said, don't worry about it. I'm looking into imitation slate shingles because originally I had slate roof. And I finally got them, but I didn't have enough money. It cost $11,000. So I went over to the town hall and said where we were and what we needed. And I made it very strong that we needed the imitation slate shingles. And I really didn't ask for the money, but I said it probably would cost, and I didn't ask them for it. I just said going to cost probably $10,000 or so, 500 or something. And they all got up in a huddle out of their seats and they talked. And all of a sudden he comes around, we're going to give you $11,000. And I never really asked for it. I just said, what I said, we got the $11,000. I ordered the shingles, and then another builder brought their 2 men in to put the shingles on. So we didn't even have to put them on. And that was another blessing.
You just mentioned in your anecdote about the people who drove in that snowy morning and helped you put start the roof getting on. But you also said over the years that you were working on it, other people coming along the rail trail would stop and do that. Can you have an anecdote or two about any individuals? I know you mentioned Charlie.
Yes, I was working here with a couple other guys, and we were working on the interior, I think on the floor, and planking on the roof, on the ceiling. And while we're working on that, Charlie stopped and he looked over things, and I said, well, you interested in working on this one? And he said, I'll let you know, and I'll come back. And he came back the next day, and he never left. He worked continually with me, working on everything. And actually, he did the diorama that's in the other room. He did that all by himself. So that was a plus ever. He was really into it.
How did you feel that day? You mentioned you opened the main door, let's say, to the public for the first time. How did you feel doing that? What was your feeling that based on 1995 when you first saw the depot in dilapidated state to the point when you opened that door?
Well, I think I felt really gratitude about having all these people help get this building up and running in such a short time.
So this was let us say, a community effort of volunteers.
That's great. It was a community. Because then after I got one, Joe stopped in, and he stayed, come back and worked on it. So little by little, different people came here and worked on it, and some of them came here to run the program.
Now you mentioned here, you gave us one anecdote. It's humorous, and that is about you did have porta parties here, and then a group of, let's say, senior citizens came to visit the depot, came to visit what you had and others had accomplished, and but they left in a huff. I don't know if you can tell that anecdote.
Well, there was a lot of different groups that came here in the early part. I don't know about so much now, but yes, and without the bathrooms, they were a little taken back, so that's why I quickly went from finishing this to building the tower.
The signal tower, the original signal tower, was pulled down in 1938 when the tracks were pulled up all the way to the Connecticut line. So this is another kind of accomplishment, to build a replica, not to restore an already original building, but now to build just from photographs and plans. Plans are available to the Newburgh Duchess and Connecticut Railroad.
I have plans. Yeah.
So after the inspiration to build bathrooms, how it evolved into the building of the signal tower, building of a replica.
Yeah. Well, one of the ideas with the signal tower is that it's a composting system. And I have one in my house, so I know what they're like. I got one years ago. And I thought this was the thing that we should have here, since there was no water. So it would be difficult to have a regular toilet system with water. And so that's why we went with the Clepis Multrum, which cost us a pretty penny. Because it was a big one, and I got 2 toilets going into it.
So you did a fine job of disguising 2 bathrooms by building the signal tower. Now, how was it in the construction of the tower? Because there are levers up there. They don't connect to anything now, but there were levers up there
Right.
to suggest what a signal tower would be.
Yeah, well, but there was, I think, 10 levers. I think 10 or, yeah. Anyhow, that's to control the crossing. And so there was a railroad crossing here. So they had to have a tower there, a signal tower, to make sure that the two trains wouldn't collide. And that's why, but the upstairs of the tower is exactly to the dimensions and everything and the style and everything of what was there originally. Downstairs, well, we put the Clevis Multrum in, so there was 2 bathrooms, and then in the front there's soda machines and stuff.
The difference between the original tower and your replica is that downstairs they probably stored tools,
Yeah.
Equipment for repairing rails and stuff like that. So that was its general
Right.
thing.
So
Now, after that, so now you got 2 accomplishments. You restored a building and you built a replica of a building. What was the inspiration for the pavilion?
Well, I think being we worked here a lot, and there'd be rainy days, and we couldn't do anything, or people, want to come in here if it's a rainy day. And so somehow I got the idea that we ought to put a pavilion up so people can have picnics there and whatever. So that's how we got that. So I contacted my architect again, because I had the architect draw up plans for this. So I called him again and said, we want to, and could you design one for us? And he designed one and put it in front of us. And I said, yeah, let's go with that. And he come up with the plans. And with that, we raised some money to build it. And that's how that got started.
What's your sense of the relationship between what you've done and the rail trail itself?
Oh, no. I think it's a big accomplishment. I think it's something that the regular public enjoys. And we see it all the time, that they're using the trail and coming in here and seeing what was here originally. So with the tower and the pavilion, they were very pleased. I think people are excited about it.
Now we have a new addition, and that is the caboose. But what is happening here, too, is similar to what happened with the depot. Here is a caboose on its last wheels, let's say.
yeah.
Yet at the same time, people who have succeeded you in construction are now restoring caboose.
Right.
So do you think that the caboose is a nice complementary addition to everything?
Oh,
you've
yes,
done?
definitely.
Because a lot of people see this building. There was people come up to us and wonder what it was.
Right.
Now with a caboose sitting there, because there's no tracks here, so they can't see that. But with a caboose sitting there, that opens up the door where they can now, yes, that is building for a railroad. And a lot of people, when it came in originally, they had no idea what this building was.
So what has happened here is you've had successors who are carrying on your initial whim, your initial inspiration, and they're carrying it on today. I hear some have suggested a steam engine, but which might be in its way as whimsical as you standing here in 1995 looking at this sad-shaped building. So you never can tell. But this is what you started,
That's
and is now continuing.
right.
I'm glad I started it. I'm glad I took a love about it, I might say, and didn't let go of it. The other group that took it way back when I first discovered it, 10 years, the holes were still in the roof. The tarp I got bottom, big 40 by 60 tarp, was still bundled up by the door. They just didn't know what to do with this place. And the reason that I could restore it in 2 years, or less than 2 years, I started as a carpenter, doing carpentry work when I was 12 years old. when in high school, they had workshops. So you could go and do carpentry and all that. And at the woodworking shop, the teacher there couldn't believe that I could run all the machines without his help. So he had me take a few minutes to work with other kids, because all the other kids couldn't run any of those machines. I think they were up there just to get out of class or something. I don't know. But anyhow, he asked me to do that. And then he was so impressed that I could run everything. He never had a student that could do that. So he brought the principal in to meet me, because neither one of them had ever seen anybody take a woodworking class or whatever. I took all the metalworking, I took all that. And I graduated in the upper echelon and went in the Army for 6 months. And after that, I got out of the Army. I joined Eberhard Builders, worked for them for 10 years. I was only there 4 months working on a framing crew, where they then made me a foreman. So at the age of 21, I was running houses with a crew of 5 guys who are all older than myself. I was completely working at the 10 years with Eberhard Builders, and I built everything. And you'll see in that little booklet there, I did the Red Bull Motel. I was the supervisor for that. So over the years, I learned how to run people, how to, work with all kinds of people, and building. So I knew building right to the T, you might say. So this wasn't a big thing for me, just putting this together. It wasn't like scary or any of that. I knew exactly what I had to do. And I did it and got it done in less than 2 years. For the other group that I gave it to, 10 years, and it was ready to fall down.
That's quite a testament. So is there anything else you'd like to say? Because you've been working hard here last hour.
Well, I think that covers most things. I did go from this to that, one right after the other. And then my feet started to give out. So I said, I can't do anything more. I've got a lot done. Biggest thing was saving this.
And this is the place you saved, Rich. None of us would be here today but for you.